right, guys, we need to talk about something that is extremely important to me, and that is making sure that you have the cleanest and freshest cup of coffee in your hands at all times. If you're anything like me, you would much rather support small, family owned businesses rather than the big fat cats that you probably normally get your coffee from. All right? You know exactly who I'm talking about here. And that's why you need to start ordering your coffee from Kaffa Bun Roastery immediately. Kaffa is owned and operated by Jason and Rachel Spivey. Not only does this husband and wife duo run the company, but their children work in it as well. So when I say that it's a family business, I mean it is a legit family owned and operated business. And we love small family businesses here at the Business from A to Easy podcast. Kaffa Bun Roastery is committed to providing the freshest, best quality, roasted to order coffee beans, which provide you with a great cup of coffee every single time. How do they do this? How do they get such a clean and fresh cup of coffee? Well, they don't use a drum roaster like most other places use. Using a drum roaster is so imprecise that oftentimes some of the beans can be burnt or scorched, while others can be left underdone. Drum roasters are also very inefficient at removing the husks from the beans, which can compromise the freshness of your coffee and complicate the taste. Air roasting, on the other hand, which is what coffee uses because they're the best, ensures an even roast across the board by blowing superheated air onto the beans. This method is also incredibly efficient at removing the husks from the beans, leaving you with the freshest and cleanest tasting coffee possible. There's just no getting around it here. It is a far superior product. Okay? They have 17 total coffee flavors. 17. That's more than most other places. 6 of those are organic. So if you're a basic white girl that has to have organic in everything, there's 6 options for you. They also sell 2 decaf blends, which are Swiss water processed instead of chemically processed, which is just plain better for you in the long run. You don't want chemically processed coffee. They also have KBR cups, which will work in any standard Keurig or pod brewer, and plenty of subscription plan options as well, so you never have to worry about running out. You can find them at kaffabunroastery.com, and you can follow them on Instagram and Facebook as well, at Kaffa Bun Roastery. So listen to me. Here's what I need you to do right now, okay? Pause this episode. Get online at kaffabunroastery.com and order some of this delicious, freshly roasted coffee. I promise you will sleep better at night, especially if you order some of the decaf. Even if you're not a coffee person, I'm 100% sure that you know someone who is. So even though you might not like it, this makes for a great gift for some of your friends or loved ones. Your favorite coffee nut, order some for them. I promise you won't regret it. Use the promo code BIZA2EZ at checkout to receive free shipping when you spend $30 or more. That's BIZA2EZ, B-I-Z-A, the number 2, E-Z, at checkout for free shipping when you spend $30 or more. So do yourself a favor and order some today. Don't wait, push pause, get online at kaffabunroastery.com and order some. You're just one cup of coffee away from a great day.
Hello, welcome to our podcast. This is Business from A to EZ. We're excited to get this off the ground and get it going. If you have your own business or if you're interested in starting your own business, then we are hoping to be a help to you. My name is Zach Estep. I am the founder and owner of Easy Window Washing. I've got Justin Beam. He is the CEO of Easy Window Washing. And then we've got Tucker Brunn. He is the owner-operator of a Chick-fil-A in Citadel and Colorado Springs.
Yeah, so really what we're interested in doing here is the purpose of this podcast. You know, the kind of the title or the main focus that we're focusing on today is starting with why. And we want to make sure that we know why we're doing what we're doing in business. But that translates to our podcast as well. You know, we want to make sure we know why we're doing this podcast, and who we are as people. You know, like we're all associated in business one way or another, and we come from three very different areas of backgrounds. You know, Tucker is operating kind of on a corporate type level with, you know, more than 100 employees with a big corporate business in Chick-fil-A. And then Zach kind of tag teaming the business side plus the ministry side as well So kind of different aspects between all three of us. And that's kind of where this podcast came about.
So, Zach, I know we've talked a lot about this podcast, but kind of just rehash how this all came about.
Really, where it started for me was we've got people who have reached out and asked about helping start a window cleaning company. But then I've also had people ask about business in general. And some of those questions that I've been asked, I've been able to answer, but some of them I've not. And so it's been kind of a roller coaster. It's been a cool ride. But honestly, I started coming to you with questions about business, and you were always a couple steps ahead, Tucker, of where I was. And so we would sit and talk. And I think the first time it happened was after talking for about an hour and a half, we said, why aren't we recording this? We should be recording this and just getting it out there so that people can have the same information that we're sharing with each other. And so, really, I think that's where this podcast kind of was birthed from, and how it was born. And so, I'm excited to share the little bit of knowledge that I have, but I'm probably more excited to glean from you, Tucker, and to learn about business, and obviously from Justin as well. And so I think it's going to be something that's really awesome. I do think that we need to kind of talk about the specifics of this podcast. There are a million different business podcasts, but we are all in ministry or involved in church or teaching some kind of class, or doing something with our church. And so I think my heart and my desire is that we reach people who are in ministry, and we start there. Now, if it blossoms into something else, then obviously that would be fine. But I just want people to know that just because you're in ministry doesn't mean that you can't own your own business, or that you can't succeed financially, or that it's wrong. Because that can kind of be a mindset as well.
Yeah, I'm excited just to participate in this way, just to be sharpened by you all, and then for me, my heart is just the church member in the pew, um, learning how to run his own business and take the principles of leadership, execute them there, but then to see how they translate into the ministry that they're a part of, and how they support their pastor. So, but then again, just for anybody to learn from this will be exciting as well. And like you said, there are a lot of podcasts out there. We're not trying to be the best one. We're just trying to contribute to the conversation in a way that can be helpful to those that are listening. And for me personally, I have no greater joy than to see other people succeed, and just to know that I had just a little part of that is rewarding in itself. And so I hope we can just inspire people to dream more and become more and do more through the avenue of work and business. So
Yeah, I'm excited as well. I kind of feel like the odd man out a little bit. You guys both started with Windows and have been talking for several years. I kind of am like the tired dog on a leash behind Zach, who's just constantly yanking at me, like, let's go here, let's go here. And I'm like, man, I don't want to do that. I want to sit here and work on what we're working on. But, I tell people all the time, Zach is probably one of the only people that can get me excited about stuff that really nobody should be excited about, like a roller hot dog at a Quick Trip or something like that. There's stuff like that he has a way of exciting me, and we've kind of been attached at the hip since high school. And so I kind of feel like I've been drugged into this podcast, but at the end of the day, I am excited about it. I've always been reluctant for it. I've been kind of the one to be devil's advocate here, but I am excited, talking to you guys as often as we have. It's always, I always feel like we come out of it ahead and come out better for it. So even if we don't have one single listener, I'm just excited to be here to hear from you guys and to just to have good conversation. So yeah, I think you guys
absolutely.
both spoke to why we created this podcast. For me personally, I came from a little bit of a financial background after college. We all came from the same college. We all graduated from the same college and are associated with ministry in deep ways. But one of the things that really really caught my attention after college was just the lack of preparation for a lot of ministry people. And not necessarily all of it's their fault, but it just seemed like a lot of people are unable to retire because they just didn't prepare, or their church didn't create some sort of plan for them or help them. And there's just a lot of churches and a lot of ministry people in that situation where, maybe they don't necessarily make enough money or feel like they can make enough money. And this is a great opportunity just by starting your own business to create some sort of retirement life for you. I always felt bad for pastors and for church leaders who just weren't able to retire because they simply didn't have the ability to. And it's really kind of a sad situation to be in. So that's kind of what led me into the financial route and then eventually here. So, really, really looking forward to trying to help people in ministry, go towards the business side of things.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to expound a little bit on what I said earlier, and kind of goes hand in hand with what you said, Justin. Um, it, you don't, we are called to ministry, and so we're called to be Christians, and we're called to tell other people about the Lord. And so we're not afraid of that, but at the same time, um, we do have to prepare, like what you said, Justin. Uh, but we have to be careful to not let the business get in the way of the call. And sometimes, if you're not careful, you can get pulled away. And unfortunately, I have known people who have started a business, and all of a sudden they didn't feel like they were called. And maybe they were never called, and now they're out just trying to run a business because it can be addicting. So there is balance that's necessary. There is understanding what is most important. And so as you're figuring out your why, I think that's got to be at the top of the list, is to understand the why is not to make money. The why is to be able to survive later, if that's your why. But another case for a business, and window cleaning in particular, in the ministry, is I clean windows at houses, and I'm in somebody's house for 3 hours. And they're sitting on their couch watching me clean windows, which feels awkward and is awkward. But they're just sitting there, and we're talking, and they say, "How long have you been doing this?" And my response every time is, "Well, actually, I just do this on the side. What I actually do is I'm the assistant pastor at a church here in town." And I can't tell you how many times that door has opened up to have real meaningful conversation with people where they just realize, look, this person is just a normal person. They care about their life, so they started a side hustle. But what they really care about is the Lord and their church. And so the doors there have been opened on more than one occasion, and it's been really cool to see um, business started to help support a ministry, but then see that business actually support the ministry in that way. It's been amazing.
Yeah. So we've talked a little bit about why we started this podcast, but the reason we called it Start with Why, or the reason that we're starting with why, is because you as as business owners or prospective business owners also need to know why you're doing what you're doing. And Zach talked about that just there, the reason that he started the business and kind of his motivation behind serving people. So I want to dig into that just a little bit. Any thoughts on what people should be doing, and before they even consider starting a business, or before they continue going forward in the business that they might have, we want to make sure that you guys know why you're doing what you're doing and what the purpose of what you're doing is. It's not lost on us that most of our listeners or our viewership right now is probably in some way or another tied to ministry as a vocation, whether that's full-time or part-time. But you need to know why you're doing what you're doing. There's a big difference between owning your job and owning a business. And I think where a lot of people fall apart is they own their job and they make a lot of money doing it, but then they try to turn it into a business and realize it's a lot harder. Owning a business is very, very different than owning your job. You could be, let's say you're a woodworker and you're doing this on the side and realize you could make money doing it. So you start selling your dressers or whatever it is that you make. And you're making a lot of money because your margins are through the roof because the only expense you have is you.
Right.
And that's basically what owning your job is. If you don't work that day, you don't get paid. Zach, that's where you were, to
Yep.
start out, when it was just you on those Tuesdays working, 10, 12, 15 hours. If you didn't work that day, you didn't take home money.
Yep.
You owned your job. And then it slowly migrated towards owning a business. And the statistics say that 20% of all small businesses fail by year one, by the end of their first year. I think it's 50% by the end of 5 years, and 65% of small businesses fail by the end of 10 years, by year 10.
Yeah.
So you got to know where you're going. If you're really, I think, Zach, you and I have talked about this a lot
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
trying to figure out why these statistics are like this and how do we avoid being, a part of that percentage. And I think ultimately it comes down to your vision, to what you're actually wanting. It comes down to why you're doing what you're doing. You
Right.
know, people start a business, they make a lot of money doing it. So, or they start a job, they start, something on the side, make a lot of money. And then they move to trying to grow it to a business, but then realize, oh, I'm not making as much money as I was. Well, it's because your expenses go up, you have
Yeah.
insurance, you got a whole bunch of other stuff. And, you got
There's
to
so
know
much
what
that
you
goes
want.
into it.
Yeah.
Well, it's like you have to know why you're doing what you're doing. If it's just so you don't have to work for somebody else, that's good. That's fine.
Hmm.
But that means that you have to get out there and you have to hustle.
Hmm.
You have to be the one to go when nobody else wants to go. You have to be the one who gets up at 5, goes out all day, cleans all day, meets the kids at taekwondo at 7, and then goes back out at 8 from 8 to 11. That's pretty specific, but that's what was happening for me, because it's where I was, and I didn't feel like doing that, but I had to do it. So if it's just that you want to own your own business so you can have flexibility, that's great. But you have to know why you're doing it so that you go out and do it. Because I'm afraid there's a lot of people who go, "Oh, it'd be cool to own my own business." So they start something and then they go out and they get tired. Well, I'm just going to go home. Well, you can't. You can't do that. It's not going to go the way you want it to go. You can't just hang it up. It will be a big part of your life, and you're going to have to go out when nobody wants to go out, when you don't want to go out. And so if your why is so that your wife and kids can eat, that's a pretty good why. Like that's a pretty good motivator to do the job that you've committed to doing. But if it's just I've always just wanted to do it, whatever, and you're not a very motivated person, it's probably not going to work, and you're probably going to be in that 20%. So it's tough. It's not easy, but it's the best. There's nothing greater than working for yourself. Um, and if your why is to have just something for you and it's just you for the rest of your life, you can make a lot of money and you can retire early. You can travel, you can buy houses, you can do whatever you want because you're going to have a lot of cash flow. But if your why is to own a business that has multiple employees and you want to employ people, it's going to be really hard.
Hmm.
It's going to be very difficult,
And
but
that
it's
reward
going to
is
be
that
super rewarding.
well, it's rewarding, but it's a lot further down the road. I can go out
Way
and
further
clean
down the
windows
road.
myself and make
Yep.
150 grand this year.
Hmm.
Or I can start a business and make that 10 years down the road. It's
Yep.
ultimately more rewarding in the end, but you've got to play the game. You got to play the game that you're looking for, and know why you're doing what you're doing.
Yeah. So it's cool to start a business. It's cool to want to start a business, but you got to know why you're doing what you're doing,
Hmm.
and then make plans and move accordingly within those plans according to that why, and it'll change everything.
Hmm.
Well, before we get into our stories and expounding on our why, uh, let's talk about our sponsor a little bit.
Yeah. Look, I'm excited. I'm excited about our sponsor. And one of the reasons why I'm excited about well, there's two really. Number one is because we actually have one, which is amazing.
Woo!
But number two is because we know them. The Spivies are the best. We all went to the same Bible college as was alluded to earlier, and they work there at that Bible college, and it's just really cool to see that they started their own business. And so my thought was, hey, if we're going to do a podcast on business or starting a business, why would we not have a sponsor that has their own business and has started their own business? And so we reached out and they graciously obliged. Uh, Tucker, you are a super fan of their coffee. Why don't you tell us
Oh
just a
yeah.
little bit about it?
Oh yeah, it's fantastic. I'm actually on the subscription plan. Um, I
That's awesome.
get 2 bags a month, and right now I'm drinking the Bali Moon blend or whatever you want to call it. And literally on the bag it tells you like they roasted it 2 days prior to me receiving it. So super fresh, fantastic coffee. I grind it on the spot, brew it right there, and it's super good. I really enjoy it. So I'm thrilled about that. Now I don't even have to think about buying coffee because by the time I'm out on my last bag, I have it on my doorstep. So they also have the K cups, which I did use that to kind of get a experience of all the blends that they roast, and so that was a great way to get into it. And so it's fantastic coffee. Highly
What are
recommend.
your favorite flavors, Tucker?
Black Mesa, Bali Moon, Oklahoma Sunrise are probably my top three.
Okay. I just ordered some more yesterday. I think Oklahoma Sunrise is the one that they sent each of us. Is that right?
Yeah.
So that one's really good. I got some of the Chisholm Trail, I think, and then I ordered the Bali Moon as well. But one thing I really like about them, I've been trying to find. My goal has been to try to stop drinking caffeine after 4 p.m. each day. Doesn't always happen, but I've been really trying to find a good solid decaf coffee. And because Dunkin' and Starbucks and all them, like it's just not good. Plus, most of those are chemically decaffeinated. They chemically
Mm-hmm.
decaffeinate their beans. So what I really like is that they use the Swiss water method, which is a lot cleaner, a lot better, and obviously you're not getting a bunch of extra chemicals with it. So I
Right.
ordered those 3 things yesterday, and really excited to get some of their decaf too, so I can have a good tasting cup of coffee at night, but not be up all night for it.
Yeah, I'm not a coffee drinker, but I had their chocolate covered coffee beans.
Boo.
I know. I'll grow up one day. But I did try one of the chocolate covered coffee beans. It's amazing. Like, it's just cool that that they do that. Because like when you hold it, you would think you pulled it out of like a raisinette bag or something like that. It looks professionally done because it is professionally done. They're great at what they do, and it's just really cool to see a company started by friends and to see it taking off. So if you are a coffee drinker or you're interested in chocolate covered coffee beans or anything like that, please consider Coffee Bean Roastery, and you can find them on Facebook at Coffee Bean Roastery, and they have their
Off a
website
bun.
as well. Sorry, Coffee Bun, that's my fault. But just consider buying from them because they're doing it right, and we want to support them. So, Tucker, why don't you get into the specifics of your why? And you started a window cleaning business first, and then you got into the Chick-fil-A. What was that transition like,
Well,
and
yeah. So
why make that
actually,
transition?
yeah. So actually, I started at Chick-fil-A first, and let me tell you my
Okay.
story. And this is what I tell all of my new team members that come on board the first day in orientation. I kind of tell them my story, and so in telling my story, I get to my why. So my journey started about 14 years ago. I was newly married, and I was in need of a job, and my wife and I were going back to Oklahoma to finish Bible college, and we're expecting our first child. And so looked for a job, had a hard time finding one. Called different. I literally opened the phone book and called different places. No luck. Walked into Chick-fil-A one day, and we had lunch, and my wife said, "Hey, you should consider working here." And I said, "No, I'll never work fast food." But by the end of our experience, seeing the countenance of the team members, the service that we received, the hospitality, the fast-paced environment, it was very attractive to me. And so I put my resume in, interviewed with 7 different managers, and I did not get an answer. And so a week goes by, and my former employer, Bass Pro, called me, and they said, "Hey, we'd love to bring you back on, selling credit cards for $10.25 an hour." So that was good money back in that time. And so then, but
Back in
Chick-fil-A
my
called.
day.
Rodney. Chick-fil-A called and they said, "Hey, we'd love to bring you on full time, and we'll pay you $8.25 an hour." And so quite a big difference between 10.25 and 8.25. And I always tell my team members, which job do you think I chose? Some get it right, some get it wrong, but I chose Chick-fil-A. Really just because I couldn't see myself selling credit cards. But then also I didn't realize what I was getting when I chose to work for Chick-fil-A. So my first day was working in the dining room, was cleaning tables, serving guests, taking trays, putting the trash out. And there was my owner operator in the lobby with me doing the same exact thing. I had never worked alongside a business owner like that before. So I was continuing with my duties. I went to take the trash to the dumpster, and the trash cart was gone. I walked a little further out, and there was my operator throwing the trash away. And that was my job. Like, that's why he hired me. And so he was literally in a white button-up shirt and a tie, and he's dumping dripping bags of chicken slop into the trash can. And at that point, I realized I wasn't just getting a job; I was getting an education. And that's where I really saw what servant leadership looked like at a very, very simplistic way. And so at that point, I was just bought into what was going on there. Just wanted to make my operator proud, serve him the best I could. And as I was finishing up Bible college, I took a class on finance, and it was about kind of, Justin, what you were saying, how people can't really retire because they don't plan for it or they're stuck in some ways. And I didn't want to have that going into the ministry. So I thought about starting a business, and window cleaning came to mind. And so I approached my operator at Chick-fil-A and asked him if he'd be a reference. And at the same time, he just said, "Well, why don't you clean our windows?" So I was kind of caught off guard. So I said, "Sure." And so I had my first job. I didn't even own any supplies. I didn't even have my business formed at that point. And so I went to Ace Hardware. I bought my squeegee and poles and all the supplies. I went on YouTube and I YouTubed how to clean a window, because I had never cleaned a window in my life. And then I went to the library and I checked out books on how to start a business for dummies, that whole series. And so it's fantastic, very simple, straightforward, and formed the business. And then I was off to cleaning windows. But anyways, after 2 years at Chick-fil-A, I graduated. I was about to graduate Bible college. And when I had started the business, it was about year one into Chick-fil-A. And so in about 6 months to a year's time, I had the window cleaning business to a full-time status. Like, I could literally quit Chick-fil-A and run the business. But what got me to that point was really what I learned at Chick-fil-A: the hospitality, the excellence mindset, how to take care of customers, just all that. And I put it into that business, and it was successful. I didn't do any advertising. It was all word of mouth. And then I did do a few things of advertising, but once you get one and you treat that customer like they're your only customer, they'll tell 5, and those 5 will tell 20, right? So it's very successful in that respect, in my estimation. But then I went to Stillwater, Oklahoma, had an internship there for 2 years and continued to run the business. And then after 2 years, we stayed there at the church, and I got to focus on the window cleaning business and grew it to a point. But anyways, in the midst of all that, I always had a desire to come back to Chick-fil-A, and I never knew how, never knew what avenue or whatnot. And then at one point, there was a Chick-fil-A in our town that was coming available for a new owner-operator. I told my wife, and she said, "You need to try that." I said, "No, I could never do that." She said, "You could totally do that." And it was really her faith in me, in my ability, more than what I had in myself. She saw a potential that I didn't. And so I tried. I put my hat into the ring, into the ring, so to speak. Filled out my application. After 3 years of waiting and interviews, was selected to be the operator of Chick-fil-A in Oklahoma City at Quail Springs Mall. And the coolest part about that story to me is the mall where we owned and operated for 3 years was in the heart of where our window cleaning business was. But then also, I was right across the street from my former boss at Chick-fil-A, my former owner operator. And so he continued to help and mentor me as
That's
I
awesome.
transitioned into that. And so, but the reason I came back to Chick-fil-A, and that's where my why comes into play, is that I wanted to do for others just like what my operator did for me. And so as I go through this orientation with new team members, I have what's called an employer purpose statement. It's my why. It's why I exist, and it's to help them succeed in and beyond the restaurant. And this is what I mean by that is that I firmly believe that as they come to Chick-fil-A, we're going to teach them skills. We're going to give them resources. We're going to teach them mindsets. We have 5 core values that we try to instill in all of our team members. Even through the interview process, we try to find some effect of that in their lives already, so we can help develop it. But I believe that if they can learn those things there, it'll help them succeed in that restaurant. But that they'll be able to take those things they learned there and put it into their future career. Why do I believe that? Because it's exactly what happened to me. The things that I learned at Chick-fil-A, I put into my window cleaning business, and that is what helped it succeed by the Lord's grace. And so I'm excited because with a restaurant like this is a lot of times the first job of young people that come into the workforce. So we get to really shape and we get to literally form their work ethic in some ways. And so that's what gets me excited. And so at the end of their time at Chick-fil-A Citadel Crossing, my hope is that they can walk away saying, I'm better for having worked there. And so that gets into my why, and my story plays right into that in my experience. And so um, that's what I get excited about, and that's what keeps me going. That's why I'm in business.
Tucker, I think it's amazing with kind of what you were talking about, how you experienced it first, and then that shaped your thinking going forward. That's really cool. So my why changed several times. Um, like for me, starting out, I wanted to start a business so that I could eat Chick-fil-A whenever I wanted. So that's how Easy Window Washing was born. I had always wanted to own my own business, but I uh, I didn't know what that would look like or if that was even possible. I thought it would be something that I would show on Shark Tank or something ridiculous like that. But um, but I always wanted to own my own business. And so whenever I saw that you were doing that, we had many conversations about it. And then my friend Brad Hyatt, who you guys know, he had a business going already. And so my thing was, you know what, this is going to be it. So I'll just go get a couple things. I actually sold my first job before I even had equipment. I just went into a used bookstore and said, "Hey, you got anybody cleaning your windows?" And they said no. And so I said, "Well, I'd do it for $15." And they said, "Cool." And and I acted like I just didn't make my first sale, but said, "Well, let me go get my stuff, and then I'll come right back." So I went to Home Depot, bought my squeegee, my scrubber, a bucket, and then stopped by the church on the way back to clean my first window, which was the front doors of the church. And then I went over there and spent an entirely ridiculous amount of time cleaning my first windows for a $15 job. And I had my brand new receipt book, so I flipped that open. I said, "Hey, look at this! You're the first one in the new receipt book." Just so he thought, I'd been doing this for a long time, and it was awesome. And looking back, it was so cool. But I remember that day I called Tucker. I called you, and I just said, "Look, here's the deal. I sold my first job, and now I kind of want to just go crazy. What do I do?" Well, you told me find your why, and you said, and this stuck with me from that day forward. You told me um, you're going to have to say no to business. Um, you've got a window company. You're going to be doing window cleaning. There's going to be people who are going to ask you to clean, but they're going to be either out of the way or they're going to be something that doesn't fit your why or your business model. So you have to be ready to turn down money. And that kind of blew me away, but it stuck with me because it's important. When you find your why, then you know how you're going to move going forward. And I did have to say no because there were things that just didn't fit in my business plan and my why at the moment. And so my why started out to be, I'm just going to get some cash on the side so that I can eat Chick-fil-A whenever I want. But my eyes are bigger than my stomach, and so I enjoy the selling aspect of it. And so I sold and sold and sold and sold and sold, and then I remembered, I've got to clean everything that I'm selling. So very quickly, I kind of worked myself into a corner, and then my why started to change a little bit. Then I realized, hey, this is sustainable. This is something that can grow and that can support me and that can support my family. And so it changed from I want to eat Chick-fil-A whenever I want to, hey, maybe this could be something that will help me with retirement. Maybe this will be something that will help me with fixing the car when it breaks down, and just being a little bit more independent in that area. And so that why began to morph, and it began to change um, into uh, my future. And then from that point, it kept growing. I hired a couple of people, and then the why changed again. And so my why has actually changed a couple of different times, but it has evolved as my business has evolved. And as God's blessed and as God's brought that work to me, then I've just tried to be a steward of what He's given. Um, I can't take any credit for Easy Window Washing and what it is. God has brought all of it to me. Um, if there's anybody who can take credit in Easy, it's Justin, because he's put systems in place and he's really helped us to grow into to be a sustainable company that can hire people. But now our why has morphed from the eat Chick-fil-A whenever you want to, hey, maybe this is a stable future, to now it's serving others and developing conquerors. And so our why now is to develop people into being a conqueror. And so now we have 10 employees, and those employees go out every day and they clean. We have people who do office work. We have people who do marketing and graphics. We have people who do our Facebook. We've got people all over doing all kinds of stuff. But our goal now is to serve our community and to serve our team, and to develop conquerors that are a part of our team. And we kind of came to that really through a journey that was pretty amazing, but it all stemmed from the why. Um, we want people to be the best that they can be so that God can use them in amazing ways. And the thing that kept coming to mind was conquerors. We want to be conquerors. We want to conquer our market. We want to win. We want to be the best that we can be. But um, the Bible makes it very clear that in order to be the greatest, you have to be the lowest. And so what we have realized is this, that in order to be a conqueror, the only way that that can happen biblically is if you serve. And so the mindset is conquer, go out, win, destroy, rip other people's signs down. I will put everybody else out of business. And while I did have that mindset for a little bit, it started to change when I realized that true conquerors only come by serving. And so it's been a journey for me as well with the why, and it's been really cool to see how it's changed along the way. But my goal is not to clean every window in Springfield and Tulsa and the surrounding areas. My goal for Easy Window Washing is to develop servants. And we have our core values as well. And we want to serve our community, but we also want to serve each other. And I think that's what God has asked us to do. And that why has given us those opportunities where we have gone through the gospel with people at their house. We have yet to have somebody saved on a route, but we've gotten close, and that's a pretty amazing thing. So that's kind of our why from my perspective at Easy Window Washing. Justin, I would be very curious to hear the why from your perspective, in your own personal philosophy, but also for Easy.
Yeah. Yeah. To kind of call back to what you said just briefly, I really love, like, I love what you're saying. I love our purpose as far as, serving God, developing conquerors, serving others is our big purpose. And, another word for conquer is win, really. A synonym for conquer would be win. And we're not trying to develop, or you don't necessarily always win, at least in life or in business. You can win by beating down everything else, but truly, like you said, the biblical way to win is to serve. If you want to win in your family, if you want to have success in your family, you serve. If you want
Wash feet.
to have a successful church, if you want to win in your ministry life, your personal life, you serve. And it's the same way in business. You serve your customers, you serve your clients. That's ultimately what it boils down to. And you may not always be first. You might not be Apple. You might not be the biggest and greatest company ever. But I mean, someone once said, "The first shall be last, and the last shall be first." So if
Yep.
if nice guys finish last, I think it's okay to be last, as long as you're serving and you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. And my journey had a lot of change in it as well. We all went to Bible college together. We all graduated from Bible college, and my story specifically is odd because I initially was planning to go the route towards ministry, but between my junior and senior year um, in college, it started to become kind of clear to me that's not what I needed to be doing. That's not what I was called to do. I wasn't called to be in full time ministry. We're all called to be, full time servants of God, and we're all called to serve Him full time. But as far as doing it for a job and making money for it, it just kind of started to be clear that that's not the path that I needed to go. So I went along that journey. It almost felt like I was an imposter because here I was at a Bible college, a person who's supposed to go into ministry. That's like what you're supposed to do being in Bible college. I kind of felt like an imposter because it's like, oh, well, I'm about to graduate and finish, but I'm actually not going into ministry. So I really didn't have quite a direction. Honestly, I didn't know exactly what I was going to do. I was just, going to take the rest of my senior year to kind of figure out where I needed to go. And it just so happened that Zach was working for a company in Springfield and they were looking to start a location in Tulsa. And, one thing led to another. And it just kind of, a man's heart devises his way, but the Lord directs his steps. And that's kind of how I felt like my life has gone. Zach got me a job with the company he was working for to start a location in Tulsa and did fairly well with that. And eventually realized that's not what I wanted to do, that specific business. I kind of became very interested in finance, moved to Edward Jones, was working with Edward Jones for 3-4 years, and really ended up, as embarrassing and as sad as it is, I ended up failing there. There were a lot of situations, a lot of circumstances that went into play, like COVID and all of that. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it was on me. I just did not capitalize on the opportunities I had well enough to continue there, and ended up failing there. But also it was weird to see good come out of that because right about the time my trajectory was going downward was when Zach's business was starting to take off and he needed to start delegating a lot of the operation stuff. And, failing as I might, I still learned a lot from, BWI where I was before and Edward Jones. I learned a ton about how businesses should and even should not operate and systems and goals and stuff like that. So really had a lot of valuable head knowledge that Zach, found appealing, and we worked out a deal for me to come work with him and try to work for that business and grow EZ. So, I think working at Edward Jones, I didn't realize until I got out of Edward Jones, but I really found a lot of value in the collaboration and a team effort. Working with EZ, I've been able to do that, and I've been able to be more out and about. Serving as a financial advisor is amazing. The company was amazing. The people were amazing, but it's literally just me and another person in an office, and you're stuck at that desk all day. And ultimately, just did not enjoy that as much as I thought I would. So, I love business. I'm intrigued by business. I'm curious about business, and that's kind of why I am where I am. we're trying to build this thing together, putting this stuff in place to build this business, and it's just been a wild ride. I think it's odd to think back to my past, because it almost seems like, I hate the word destiny, but Zach and I have always kind of been destined to
Right.
be together. I mean, that sounds,
Right.
romantic, but it's not. Business partners. All right,
That's right. Right.
We've been
Right.
destined to be business partners. But I mean, Zach and I started a quote unquote business when we were 16 and 17. We started scrap metal. We would drive my truck around, my old crappy truck, to neighbors' houses that had an old beaten down tractor that's in 17 pieces, and say, hey,
Yeah.
can we take that out for you? And we'd take it to the scrapyard and get paid $150 for the spare metal. We had all kinds of stuff in my yard, trash from the people that lived there before that needed to be moved. So we started loading it up, hauling it to the scrapyard, and getting paid for it. So, it's just
It's in our
weird.
blood, man.
It is. It's weird seeing the path. It's like stuff that you never would have thought about ahead of time,
Right.
and then we worked together at BWI, and then eventually here. I can't get away from that verse. The Lord directs your steps, and we can have the plans, we can do what we think we need to do and should do all the live long day, but at the end of the day, God's going to have his way, and he's going to do with you, what he wills. So that's kind of my journey, and looking back, I've loved every minute of it. I've loved the way it's played out. Hasn't always been comfortable, but growth is rarely ever comfortable. Well, we have a couple other things we want to cover before we get going here, and one of those would just be some actionable items. One of the most important things, or one of the biggest things for me, is always be learning. Reading. I'm sure that you've heard the saying that leaders are readers. Not all readers are leaders, but probably most, if not all, leaders are readers. At least the effective ones, anyways. So. Books are something that's high on my list. Books, podcasts, other resources like this that I'm constantly going to, that all of us are going to. So I kind of want to dig into that just a touch. Tucker, what's a book that you might recommend, or a book or two that you're reading at the moment, that you might recommend to people?
Yeah, absolutely. The book that has most influenced me outside the Bible has been Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And when I first read this, I was kind of discouraged because I didn't do anything in the book. But in saturating myself in it, being around people who did these things as well, really helped instill in me those habits, to where now it becomes second nature and I think about it. And so, I mean, it talks about proactivity. I mean, that is like one of the fundamental truths of just life. If someone can get that, they will be changed forever. And it's basic biblical truth right there. But I highly recommend this. I mean, it talks about personal vision, which goes into your why in a lot of ways. And so that can help you there in trying to find your why, your business why, or whatnot. But this is a book not that I've only read once, but that I continually read. And I try to revisit it once every year, once every 2 years, depending on my book list or whatnot. Or I'll just read a segment of it, at times, because it's just great reference. It's a book I find in thrift stores everywhere, and I just grab them as I go and pass them out to everybody I can. So highly recommend this book. It is an old one. It's a classic, but it'll very much be a help to you, I promise.
I just finished a book. If you want to feel like you haven't done anything with your life, then I strongly encourage reading about Alexander the Great. And so I just finished that by Jacob Abbott, and it was really good. I'm actually glad that I went through it, because it encouraged me to do more and to be better and to push harder. Because Alexander started when he was 20, and he was doing some crazy stuff at 20. So it makes you feel like you haven't done anything with your life, or you're way behind. But I picked up a lot of really good things to do and implement, and have already started implementing them in Easy. And I also picked up some things towards the end of his life that you probably shouldn't do. So, but it was a really good book. And then I'm halfway through The Infinite Game by Simon Sinek, and I probably stole that from Justin. He got it for me, so I'm working through that one. I don't know if that was your recommendation, Justin, but if it was, too
Yes.
bad.
I did. Well, that's not the one I was going to recommend to people. But mine's another Simon Sinek book. But you're probably going to be done with Infinite Game before me because it kind of ended up on my wife's nightstand instead of mine. So, but yeah, Seven Habits, great book that Tucker recommended. Probably one of the best like all around books for anybody trying to be successful in business or life in general. So great book. That's one that you're going to mark up and you're going to put Post-its in and you're going to continue to go back to. And then the Alexander the Great one is probably one that I need to listen to or read next. But mine specifically is Start With Why, another book by Simon Sinek. And that's kind of, we've alluded to that throughout this entire podcast, but you really need to know why you're doing what you're doing. And Simon Sinek's perspective really comes mostly from the business side. You as a business or you as an organization need to know why you're doing what you're doing, which is important and one that I would highly recommend if you already have an organization or if you're building an organization. You need to start with why. But it's a little bit different on the outside of the business because what we've talked about and what we're talking about today is let's assume that you're at the beginning stages of business or thinking about starting a business. You need to know why you're doing it personally. Your personal why and your business why can overlap oftentimes, but they are a little bit different. We're not blind to the fact that most of our listeners are probably serving in ministry, either part-time or full-time, and are trying to find something else to do, maybe some additional income. And you really have to know why you're doing what you're doing. Is your purpose to own your job and just make a little bit of extra income, and you don't have any interest in actually growing a successful business with multiple employees and different revenue streams and all that? If you just want to own your job, that's perfectly fine. If you want to grow a big business that turns into Chick-fil-A someday, that's great too, but you have to know why you're doing what you're doing. And Zach, you talked about that a little bit, coming from the ministry side. The why was not necessarily to grow a big business. It was to serve people. I recommend starting with that book on the personal side and on the business side for sure.
What I love about reading these different books that are from different authors is a lot of times they stumble over biblical truth, and sometimes they have a better way of saying it in modern day, in just packaging the truth. In some ways they present it in a way like as we preach, right, or whatever. They just have a great way of presenting it, if that makes sense. So I enjoy their perspective in doing that. We don't recommend of everything in every book, obviously, but there's some great truths that you can grab from them.
It's interesting how many times, success in any area of life, the traits that create success are biblical truths. It's almost like, God knows what he's doing. They kind of pack it, like you said, they kind of package this as if it's some great thing that they've discovered or whatever. But I mean, ultimately,
let me take you to Proverbs and show you somebody who talked about this a long time ago.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Well, it was funny because like when you get into vision, purpose, core values, like that is the Bible. Like Revelation is the vision, right? And then there's the mission of the church, the mission of the nation of Israel, and the core values are just Bible truth right there. Anyways, this will be fun. I'm excited just to have the conversation on a personal level. This first podcast probably feels like a bad Zoom call. So it'll
be going to be great.
Yeah, it's going to be good. People are like just a fly on the wall to our conversations in some ways, but I'm excited for them for everybody listening to learn. So no idea what we're doing, but we're building the ship while we're sailing it at the same time. So
it's good times.
I don't know that I'd recommend that, but It's what we're doing.
Yeah.
So.
Plug the holes first, and then build the mast.
Let us
All right, guys.
mess
Well,
up so you don't have to. If you have any questions that you would like for us to talk about, we would love to have a segment in here where we can answer those questions. I mean, if I can't answer them, Justin can, and if Justin can't, then Tucker surely can. So he knows everything. So
That's not true.
if you do have questions and you kind of want to know whether that could be anything from you know, how do I get an LLC to should I grow? Should I do this? Should I go this way? What do I do for ads? What do I do for marketing? Anything like that, just let us know, and we'll bring them up. We'll say your name on the podcast, and you can be famous to both listeners, which would be awesome. So send us your questions; those will be on Facebook. We'll be posting occasionally on there. Just if you see that, post your question, and we'll try to get it on the air as quickly as we can. Okay, so we are at the end of the podcast now. Please go to our Facebook page, like it. If you would like to be a guest, I've already had several people reach out. We would love to interview and ask questions. So anything like that is going to go through our Facebook page. So feel free to go there, like that. Like this podcast, subscribe, give it a review, whatever you need to do there on Apple Podcasts. It just helps us to know that it's working and that people are actually listening. So like, share, subscribe, click the bell, whatever you're supposed to do, do that. And then please, we are begging you, order coffee. If you drink coffee, don't get it from the store. Get online and order coffee from Kaffa Bun Roastery. I promise you will not regret it. And use that promo code BIZA2EZ, BIZA, the number 2EZ, and you will get free shipping on any orders over $30. Anything else, Justin?
I don't think so. Hop on with us next week. We're going to continue the conversation and go from there. And reach out if you have questions. If you give us questions, we will do our best to answer them, and that'll really help us know what we need to talk about rather than just coming up with some obscure things that we think are important. Yeah. So if you have questions, ask them, and we will do our best to research and figure it out. And who knows, maybe we'll start another business that just so happens to be based on the question that you asked. So,
ooh, that'd be fun. Let's do another business, Justin.
Yep.
All right, we're out of here. We'll see y'all later. Hopefully next week we'll have another episode up. Make sure you are subscribed and all of that good stuff, and we will see you next time. Clean your windows and eat some chicken.